He was a systems engineer aboard the Aurora, a deep space vessel exploring the edges of human reach. The ship was a marvel of human creation, sleek, intelligent, and alive with the hum of progress. For years, Elias had served among its crew, maintaining the ship's artificial gravity core, ensuring that humanity's finest machine never stopped spinning through the void. But that day, the day everything changed, began like any other. Elias woke to the sound of the morning chime echoing through his cabin. The ship's walls glowed soft blue, simulating dawn. He rubbed his eyes, sighed, and muttered, "Another orbit, another report." He didn't know that before the next sunrise, if there would even be one, the Aurora and everything around it would stand still. At breakfast, he sat across from Lieutenant Mira Lane, the communications officer. She was quiet but observant, a woman whose mind seemed to exist halfway between the digital and human world. Her eyes always glimmered with some unreadable secret. "You look tired," she said, her tone half teasing. "I've been recalibrating the spin stabilizers," Elias replied. "They keep drifting off balance. It's like the ship doesn't want to spin anymore." Mira raised an eyebrow. "That's not something to joke about. The ship has to spin." "I know," he said. "It's just a feeling." The Aurora was humanity's symbol of endurance, a ship designed to travel for decades between the stars. Its rotation provided artificial gravity, its engines powered by a fusion heart built from Earth's brightest dreams. Yet deep in its metal bones, something unseen was stirring. Later that day, a distress signal appeared on Mira's screen. It was faint, broken, and old. At least a century old, according to the data timestamps. "Origin unknown," the computer announced. "Frequency decay suggests pre-expansion era." That meant before humanity had left the solar system. Elias joined Mira on the bridge as Captain Rowan ordered the ship to halt and analyze the signal. Through the main viewport, the stars hung motionless, silent witnesses to the curiosity of humankind. The distress signal grew louder as they adjusted frequency. The voice that emerged was human, female, and trembling with fear. "Please, if anyone hears this." The world stopped spinning. "We can't." Then silence. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "What does that even mean?" asked Lieutenant Voss. "The world stopped spinning? Some kind of metaphor?" Mira shook her head. "No, it sounds literal." Captain Rowan frowned. "Plot the coordinates. We're going to find the source." 3 hours later, the Aurora arrived at the signal's origin, a small blue-green planet orbiting a faint yellow star. The readings confused everyone. "It shouldn't be habitable," Elias muttered. "But the atmosphere, it's Earth-like. It's spinning, right?" Mira asked. Elias checked the sensors and froze. "No, it's not. The planet isn't rotating at all." The bridge went silent. A planet that didn't spin should be impossible. One side should burn, the other freeze. And yet this world glowed evenly lit, as though caught in a moment between day and night. They called it Still World. Captain Rowan ordered a small landing team. Mira volunteered. So did Elias. "Curiosity will kill you one day," the captain warned them, half smiling. "Better curiosity than boredom," Mira replied. The shuttle descended through the planet's strange, calm air. Outside, the sky was split, half bright, half shadow, an endless sunset frozen in place. The ground below shimmered with glass-like soil that reflected the orange horizon. It was breathtaking and wrong at the same time. As they stepped out, Elias felt an odd silence. There was no wind, no movement. Even dust hung suspended in the air as if time had paused. "This place feels asleep," Mira whispered. Elias nodded. "Or waiting." Their scanners detected faint energy readings nearby. The team followed them to what looked like the remains of a human colony. Buildings stood half sunk in the ground, untouched by decay. Every door, every machine, every clock, frozen in motion. Mira brushed dust from a sign that read, "Nova Settlement 01. "This can't be real," she said. "Nova missions were canceled a century ago." Elias turned toward her. "Unless they made it, and something stopped them, literally." Inside the colony's central dome, they found more than ruins. They found people, hundreds of them, perfectly still, eyes open, not dead, not alive, suspended mid-motion, as if caught between one heartbeat and the next. A woman stood frozen holding a child. A man's hand hovered inches from a control panel. It was like time had taken a deep breath and never exhaled. Mira touched one of the figures and gasped. Warm, he's warm. Elias stepped closer, checking readings. No cellular decay. No pulse, but no death either. Like they're waiting to start again, she said softly. Suddenly their comms flickered. A soft hum filled the air and the dust began to move again. The ground vibrated slightly beneath them. Then a voice, and the same voice from the old distress signal, echoed all around them. One look. One kiss, and then the world stopped spinning. The team froze. Mira turned in a slow circle. Who said that? The voice repeated, quieter now, sadder. He looked at me, and time forgot to move. Elias felt a chill run through him. That's not a recording, he whispered. That's Liv. He looked at Mira, whose face was pale. What if the signal didn't come from the colony? He said slowly. What if it came from time itself? Before she could answer, the ground cracked open beneath the dome. A pulse of light surged upward, blinding white. Elias reached for Mira, pulling her close as everything around them dissolved into brilliance. For a brief second, he saw her eyes. And in that moment, that single look, the hum of the ship, the motion of the air, even the pulse of his heart, all stopped. The world stood still. When the light faded, Elias found himself lying on the ground outside the colony dome. The air was quiet again, but different, heavier somehow. The shuttle was gone. The crew was gone. Only Mira stood beside him, staring up at the unmoving sky. Elias, she said, her voice trembling. I think we're inside the moment that stopped everything. He blinked at her, confused. Inside what? The signal, she whispered. We didn't find the source. We became part of it. And then, far above them, the stars began to fade in one by one, until only darkness remained. Elias Trent opened his eyes to silence, a silence so deep that even his heartbeat seemed afraid to disturb it. The sky above him was still locked in its strange, endless twilight. The sun hovered unmoving on the horizon, half risen, half set. It cast a golden glow across the land, yet nothing moved. Not the dust, not the air, not even the faint shimmer of heat. Mira Lane stood a few feet away, staring at the horizon with wide eyes. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. Elias, I can't hear the ship anymore, she whispered. No comms, no signals, nothing. He tapped the small device on his wrist. The display blinked once and froze, the numbers refusing to change. The time read 14:07:22 and stayed that way. Elias frowned. Even the chronometer is stuck. Mira, I think we're outside of normal time. She turned to him slowly, her expression caught between disbelief and fear. Outside of time? Yes. Somehow, when that energy wave hit us, it froze everything. Maybe even the laws of motion themselves. He looked around. The air had a strange shimmer to it, like heat waves on a summer road, but thicker, heavier. The colony, once filled with frozen people, now stood empty. The bodies were gone. The buildings stood like hollow shells, silent and lifeless. Mira clenched her fists. So where did everyone go? Elias looked toward the glowing dome at the center of the settlement. I think they're still here, just in another layer of time. They began walking toward the dome. Each step felt like moving through syrup. Their boots left no marks on the dusty ground. There was no echo, no sound except their breathing. When they reached the entrance, the metal door slid open on its own, though no power should have been working. The light inside was faint and blue, and at the far end of the hall stood something new, something alive. It looked human, at least at first. A woman stood perfectly still, glowing faintly with pale light. Her eyes were closed, her hands clasped over her chest as if she were praying. But when they stepped closer, she opened her eyes. Who are you? Mira asked carefully. The woman's voice was soft, distant, as though echoing across centuries. I am the keeper of the pause, she said. I watch over the world that forgot how to turn. Elias exchanged a look with Mira. The pause? He asked. You mean this? State we're in? The woman nodded slowly. Long ago, this world was alive. People laughed, worked, loved. But one day, two souls met, and the universe felt something it had never felt before. A moment of perfect stillness, a love so powerful it stopped the motion of the stars. Time, jealous and afraid, refused to move forward, and so the world stood still. Mira's brow furrowed. That's not science. That's mythology. The woman smiled sadly. Once all science was mythology. You humans gave time meaning. When you took it away, even for a moment, time lost its balance. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. You're saying, someone's love froze time itself? Yes, the keeper said. And now that love echoes forever. You stepped into the echo. Mira looked around, her voice shaking. Then how do we get out? You must find the moment that started it, the keeper replied. Only the truth can restart what was stopped. Before they could ask more, the keeper began to fade. Find the lovers, she whispered. Find the moment. Then she was gone, leaving behind only the faint shimmer of her light. Elias turned to Mira. We need data. Maybe there's still a log in the colony archives. She nodded. Let's check the central core. Inside the control chamber, the screens were still glowing faintly. Elias began connecting his tablet to the main console. To his surprise, it worked. Files appeared on the screen. Frozen reports, incomplete messages, and one folder labeled Project Horizon. Final log. He opened it. A video flickered to life showing a young man and woman in lab coats. Their names appeared at the bottom. Dr. Adrian Kale and Dr. Lyra Solon. Day 102 of the Nova Project, Adrian said, his voice nervous. We've stabilized the planetary rotation field. Stillworld will finally stop spinning tomorrow. The experiment is working. Lyra smiled beside him. It's beautiful, Adrian. Imagine a world without night or day, just eternal peace. Elias and Mira exchanged shocked glances. They stopped the planet on purpose, Mira whispered. Elias nodded grimly. Artificial rotation control. They created this. The next video started automatically. The same two scientists, but everything looked different. The room was shaking, alarms blaring. It's collapsing, Adrian shouted. The field is folding time into itself. Lyra reached for him, tears in her eyes. We can't let go. If we lose sync, the timeline will fragment. He grabbed her hand. Then we hold on. For a moment, the chaos around them seemed to fade. Their eyes met, full of fear and love. Then, as they leaned closer, the screen went white. When the image returned, both of them were frozen, locked in that one unfinished kiss. And time had stopped. Mira gasped. One look, one kiss, and the world stopped spinning. They sat in silence for a long time. Elias finally spoke. If their emotions triggered this collapse, maybe that same connection is still here, keeping everything frozen. Mira looked at him. Then we need to undo it. But how do you reverse a moment like that? Elias hesitated. Maybe by understanding it. Maybe by completing what they couldn't. Mira frowned, unsure what he meant, but before she could ask, the ground trembled. The lights around them began to flicker. A voice, soft but urgent, filled the air. You found the truth, it said. It was the keeper's voice again. Now face the consequence. The walls around them started to dissolve, replaced by a blinding white light. The sound of rushing air filled their ears as the world melted away. When the light faded, Elias and Mira stood inside what looked like the same lab from the recordings. But now it was whole, clean and alive, as if time had been reversed. Monitors flickered with data. Outside the glass window, the planet's frozen sky glowed faintly. Where are we? Mira whispered. Elias looked around slowly. We're in the moment. The day they stopped time. A door opened behind them and two figures entered. The same scientist from the video. Adrian and Lyra. They didn't seem to notice Elias or Mira at all. They were moving through their last moments again, exactly as in the recording. Elias watched closely. It's a temporal echo. We're watching history replay. But something was different. Adrian's hand was shaking and the machines around him were overheating faster this time. Adrian! Lyra shouted. The field's collapsing earlier. He turned to her, panic in his eyes. The equation, it's wrong. Time's folding back. Elias stepped forward instinctively. We have to help them. Mira grabbed his arm. They can't see us. We're not really here. But if they fail again, the world stays frozen forever. He pulled free, rushing toward the console. To his surprise, his hand didn't pass through it. It touched it. The system flickered, recognizing his touch. Mira stared in disbelief. You can interact with it. Elias typed quickly, stabilizing the power grid. If I can reroute the temporal loop, maybe I can unfreeze the flow of time. The readings began to stabilize. But the light above the machine grew brighter. dangerously bright. Lyra turned to Adrian, tears in her eyes. "It's too late." He reached for her hand again. "Then we face it together." The wave of light surged outward, and Elias grabbed Mira, shielding her. The world shook violently. Then, silence. When the light faded again, they were outside, back on the planet's surface. The sky was moving. The sun had shifted slightly across the horizon. The air stirred, wind brushing across Elias's face. Mira gasped. "Elias, it's moving." "The world's spinning again." He smiled faintly, exhausted. "We did it." But before he could say more, the keeper appeared once again, her light now dimmer. "You set the world in motion," she said. "But the price is not yet paid." "The echo remains." "What echo?" Mira asked. The keeper's eyes turned toward Elias. "The bond that stopped time still exists, and it has chosen its next bearer." Before either of them could react, the light enveloped Elias. His body shimmered, his outline fading like mist. Mira screamed, reaching for him. "Elias, no!" He looked at her one last time, his voice soft and calm. "Maybe this is how it ends. Or begins." And then, with one look, the same look that had once stopped the world, Elias disappeared into the light. Mira Lane fell to her knees as the last shimmer of Elias transformed disappeared into the light. The world around her was moving again. The wind whispered through the broken colony. Dust floated in golden waves, and the sun had begun its slow climb across the horizon, but her heart felt frozen. "Elias." "No," she whispered, staring at the empty air where he had stood. The keeper's words echoed in her mind. "The bond that stopped time still exists, and it has chosen its next bearer." Mira struggled to rise. She didn't know if Elias was alive, trapped, or gone forever, but something inside her refused to accept defeat. Time had begun moving again, but the story wasn't over. Not yet. She returned to the lab dome where the Nova Project's consoles flickered with life. The machines that had frozen time now hummed normally. Adrian and Lyra, the scientists, were gone, vanished from history, leaving only their echo behind. But the data remained, and Mira pored over it with determination. There was a sequence hidden deep in the system, a log she had missed before. It detailed the energy field that had stopped the planet. The crucial component wasn't the machinery, but the human connection. The final entry read, "Time is not just movement. It is feeling. When two hearts align perfectly, the universe pauses to witness it. Only understanding that bond can restore motion fully." Mira felt a shiver. Elias and she had survived the pulse, but the bond, the force that had frozen the world and had now marked him. Somehow, time had chosen him to carry its weight. She stepped outside. The world was awakening. Clouds drifted across the sky, and the wind rustled the tall glass-like grass. She closed her eyes, imagining Elias suspended somewhere between now and forever, somewhere beyond the reach of her touch, but she refused to let fear win. Mira returned to the main control panel and began working. Using the remnants of the Nova Project's technology, she tried to trace the energy signature of Elias's disappearance. Each reading pulsed like a heartbeat, erratic, unsteady, alive. And then she saw it. A faint trail of light, stretching outward from the planet's surface, winding through the void. Elias was out there, somewhere in the folds of paused time. With a deep breath, she activated the shuttle. She had no coordinates, no map, only a faint pulse to guide her. The engines hummed, carrying her into the blackness of space. The stars moved now, streaking past her as if cheering her onward. For hours, she followed the pulse. It led her to a field of shimmering energy, invisible walls of light twisting around each other, forming a cage of suspended reality. Mira's sensors read impossible numbers. Time here was liquid, flowing in loops and eddies, unstable and chaotic. She docked the shuttle at the edge of the field. Outside, the light shimmered like a veil, and inside she could see him. Elias Trent stood alone, surrounded by echoes of the frozen world. His eyes were open, staring straight ahead, calm but distant. "Elias," Mira shouted, rushing to the field. He turned, finally seeing her. His voice was faint but full of relief. "Mira, you came. How could I not?" she said. "I'm not letting you disappear alone." He tried to step toward her, but the light barrier repelled him. I can't get out. The bond, it's holding me. It's waiting for someone to understand it fully." Mira looked at him, tears streaming. Then she realized the moment that stopped time before wasn't just about love. It was about recognition, courage, and connection. Time had paused not because of passion alone, but because someone had to see it. Someone had to bear witness. "I see you, Elias," she whispered. "I see everything you are, everything you feel, and I won't let it end like this." The light around him pulsed in response, reacting to her words, her presence. Slowly, the barrier began to ripple. Inside the field, time was strange. Mira felt her own heartbeat echo unnaturally, her breath lagging a fraction behind her movements. Yet she kept reaching for him. "You're not alone. We'll set things right, together." Elias smiled faintly. "You understand? That's why I can feel you." Step by step, the light responded to her determination. The chaotic eddies began to align, forming a corridor of energy that connected Mira and Elias. His hand finally reached hers. When their fingers touched, a surge of warmth and light radiated through the field. The stars outside seemed to pause and then spin faster, as if the universe itself exhaled. I can move again," Elias whispered. The light began to collapse gently, pulling him back toward reality. "You did it. You saved me." Mira held him tightly. "We saved each other." The field dissolved completely, leaving them floating in the shuttle bay of the Nova Project lab, alive, together, and whole. The hum of the machines, the wind outside the dome, the movement of the planet beneath them, all returned to normal. Outside, the sky had shifted completely. The sun set and rose in a rhythm no longer frozen. Birds, or the alien equivalents, flew across the horizon. The world was alive again. The echoes of the past lingered in memory, but the present spun freely once more. Mira and Elias stepped onto the grass-like plains, breathing deeply. Time had returned, but it had left a mark, a quiet knowledge of the fragility and power of human emotion. Elias turned to Mira. I think the universe trusted us because we cared, because we didn't run away from it." She smiled, brushing dust from her shoulder. "Maybe that's what makes humans different. We see, we feel, and we act. That's enough to change worlds." He laughed softly, the sound like music after a long silence. "Then let's make sure we never stop seeing, never stop feeling. No matter what the universe throws at us," Mira nodded. "Together." Back at the main colony dome, the monitors lit up with fresh data. The systems of Stillworld, once frozen, were now alive. Plants grew in accelerated pulses to catch up with lost time. Rivers flowed, winds shifted, and the planet began to breathe again. Adrian and Lyra's echoes were gone, or perhaps now free. The universe had reset, letting history continue as it should. But the bond, the moment that had once paused everything, remained. A subtle warmth, a faint glow in the corner of perception, reminding the world that human connection could bend the rules of reality itself. Elias and Mira stood on a hill, watching the horizon. The twin suns of the alien planet bathed them in light, casting long shadows that stretched forward in motion, not frozen, but moving. "I never thought one kiss I could change the entire world," Elias said quietly. Mira reached for his hand. "Sometimes it's not just the moment that matters. It's who sees it. That's humanity. That's us." For the first time in what felt like eternity, the stars spun in their heavens. The wind carried whispers of life, and the world, all of it, moved forward again. The universe had paused for a heartbeat, and in that pause humanity had proven its worth. Together, Elias and Mira walked toward the rising suns, ready to face whatever the spinning world would throw at them next. Because some bonds, some moments are stronger than time itself.